McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan
Let's move
Show.
on. The weird and wonderful. Ooh. It's getting close to Halloween, isn't it? Always good to talk to a witch. Anyway, as always, we talk to interesting people at this time of the night. And let's face it, you don't get more interesting than a witch, do you? Yes, you heard me correctly. Tonight on the show, I'm going to talk to a witch. Consequently, of course, or conveniently, Halloween won't be long getting here. The evenings are getting much shorter, aren't they? Anyway, Billie Bryan is the founder and president of a non-profit organisation and cafe owner originally from the Cayman Islands, but now living in Galway. She says she is a witch who practices sex magic to give herself and her partners maximum pleasure. Billie praises witchcraft for turning her life round after being flat broke in 2020. So maybe she makes money out of it. Anyway, we'll find out in a second. And now wants to normalise witchcraft in Ireland. Now, I suppose when we hear the word witchcraft, we always think of negative connotations, but maybe it has positive connotations too. Let me go to Billie Bryan. Welcome, Billie. Hi, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Now, witchcraft, Billie, always has negative connotations, doesn't it? People think of negative things and burning at the stake and all sorts of voodoo. And is it always negative or is it always positive in your eyes?
Well, relatively speaking, witchcraft has only recently been seen as something negative. From the bulk of human history, witches have been revered and often worshipped across cultures. It's only within the past 4 or 5 centuries, I would say, that witches have been associated with the devil and devil worship.
Mm. Yeah, sticking pins in dolls and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's all I know about witchcraft is that you get out with that. Pardon me, I have a bit of a chest infection.
And that's how the Puritans would have you believe, yeah.
Yes, there's a couple of people out there I'd like to have dolls off to stick pins in. But anyway, so you practice what they call sex magic. Now, is that your main focus on, witchcraft or being a witch that improves people's lives?
I would hardly say that's my main focus, but that does seem to be what all the commotion is about lately.
Okay. And where did that come from? Where did you realize you had kind of some sort of special powers?
It's hard to really put my finger on it. I think it's more of a gradual process. But certainly within the past few years, it's really been a massive part of my life and my lifestyle. And that includes with my partners, So when I talk sex magic, it doesn't have to be with a partner. It doesn't even have to be really all that sexual in a typical sense. There doesn't have to be penetration involved, for example.
Yeah.
You can just be in touch with your inner self and your physicality and your senses, because being sexual is also about being sensual, right? So as long as you're tapping into that side of you and aligning all those energies and those senses, that is, in essence, sex magic.
Could you, without a partner, using sex
Absolutely.
magic, could you bring yourself to climax without even having a partner, without even touching yourself?
It does take some discipline to accomplish that, but yes, you can.
Okay, so in other words, you can induce the same endorphins and that kind of thing.
And again, it's not entirely about the climax. It's about the process. It's about the intent. Anything with witchcraft is about the intent, honestly. And that applies to sex magic as well. It's what you want to get out of the experience that matters most.
And what do people use it for, sex magic? I mean, in particular, is it for lonely people maybe who don't have a partner, or is it?
No. It's not a means of manifestation. It's along the same lines as what brought me to Ireland. And when I first set on this path with real intention, I did have my doubts. I was something of a skeptic, but I decided to set all those doubts aside and just throw my all into it and see what happened. What could go wrong?
Well, this is what can go wrong. I mean, in 2019, you became kind of captivated by stories of mysticism and the occult.
Oh, completely. I as the article says, I'm sure you're referencing that. I did tumble down a rabbit hole, and if not look back, I put my all into it, like I said, and gave me everything I asked for, essentially. I never thought I could make it here. I never thought I could be in a position where I'd be opening this cafe I never thought could be a reality. And here we are, just weeks away from it.
Can we
Opening our
all be
doors to the public.
witches? Can we all be Well, I'd be a warlock, obviously.
Anyone can be a witch with enough discipline and practice. Yeah.
So if I wanted to be a warlock, I'm assuming that's the male version of a witch. If
That would be, yeah.
Okay, if I wanted to be a warlock tomorrow, like how would I go about it? I mean, do I have to start get in touch with my inner self and all sorts of odd stuff? I mean, how would I become a warlock?
Well, that's really up to you, and what kind of warlock you would want to be. Maybe you might be into sex magic. Maybe you'd be into tarot. Maybe you'd be into psychic abilities, mediumship.
Okay.
Speaking with the dead, all of which I dabble in as well.
Okay, and so that's all part of the occult, then, isn't it? I suppose, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of crossover between the occult and witchcraft, but they're not the same thing.
I find that, and I'm not talking about witchcraft in general or the occult in general, but I do find that there is a lot of people involved in that industry that are.
The industry.
Well, is it an industry? Is that the right word even for it? I don't know.
Well, but go ahead. Let's see where this goes.
Okay, but I'm not suggesting you for a minute, by the way, Billy. But there are people, I think, we'll use the word industry for the moment, in the community. The community, that's probably a better word. Okay, in the community that are not in it for the good of people. There are some great people in it who want to help people. You know, for example, who make people feel better, who make people feel good about themselves. And they're really good at what they do. But there are also people out there who take advantage of people. And they basically abuse vulnerable people. And we've seen some horrific stories in the courts, you know, people taking money out of people. Right. You know what I mean? So, so there's a kind of mixed bag involved in the occult. There's those who are kind of the charlatans, I suppose, and those who are genuinely there to help people.
Well, I believe you find that across the board, regardless of what kind of practitioner we're talking about or what industry, as you put it, that they're in. You know, there are people of all walks of life who have good intentions as well as bad, regardless of how they identify. So, yeah, of course you'll find witches with not the best intentions out there.
Yeah.
But I would say, largely speaking, when it comes to being a witch, yeah, there is something of a light path and dark path people like to talk about. I don't really subscribe to those connotations. Largely speaking, witch, the term witch is largely means wise woman, and it has for centuries, millennia. And people would go to witches in the village for, you know, to seek ailment or cures for their ails, or to seek guidance, or to act as midwives. They were always for the benefit of the community as a whole.
And do you have a cauldron?
Do I have a cauldron?
Yeah.
I have a tea kettle. Does that count?
Well, maybe, yeah, okay. Because we kind of envisage the witch, you know, with the cauldron and mixing her potions.
I do work with spices and leaves, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, okay, so making potions, I suppose.
Sure, yeah, coffee every morning is still a potion.
I have a chest infection, so I could do with a potion at the moment, to be honest with you. But do you make potions for people? I mean, is that something that you do, or using obviously herbal remedies and stuff like that?
Yeah, that is something people usually think of when they think witches, but not all of us work with potions. I would wager very few of us work with potions. I describe myself as a hermetic witch, and I could deliver a whole workshop in that alone. But to save you the time, I lean on what's called hermeticism from my beliefs, which in essence means that most of my work is done mentally. It's mental transmutation. So it's all in the mind. I don't really use too many physical implements. I have a few. I do have wands I rarely use, but I do have them. But it's really about, for me, especially when I'm doing sex magic, is employing things that ignite the senses, like food and drink and incense and music. Anything that really enhances, you know, your physical senses to also lend to your spiritual lens.
Well, music does enhance. Music definitely enhances you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a big component of what's the concept of the cafe we're opening here. It's really about leading into all of that as well, bringing people under one roof together to indulge in all those things: food, drink, music, art, etc. There'll be no sex, at least
not in the cafe. That wouldn't be hygienic.
But what happens outside our doors is unrelated.
Are people out of touch with their energies? I mean, you know, living out of alignment, so to speak, in the way they should be living. Do you reckon most people are in touch, or are we out of touch with our alignment?
Well, it depends what pocket of the society you're referring to. I think largely in the West, yeah, without a doubt we are. But around the world in small villages in, I don't know, the Amazon, deepest, darkest Africa, as you would have it, they're still very much in touch with their spirituality, in touch with nature, in touch with the old ways that we've lived by for millennia,
Yeah.
and that are frankly much better for the earth as well as for us as individuals.
But us Irish, we're kind of a bit closed-minded to stuff like that, aren't we?
We're
I mean, how
close-minded.
often
Yeah,
would you
but
hear a witch interviewed on the radio? You know what I mean?
okay. But whose fault is that, though? Do you think that's inherently Irish?
I think so. But even when it comes to
I would
sex,
strongly discuss against that.
we don't even want
We
to talk about sex, for God's sake.
Well, yeah. I'm sure I'm getting all the attention now because of the widespread puritanical beliefs, but I would not put that on the Irish. I would put that mostly, I'm sorry to say, as someone who identifies as British as well, on the UK and
Okay.
the colonial, very religious, very restrictive views they brought to all of the colonies they established, let's say, around the globe, including my own. The Cayman Islands is a British colony.
By the way, can I just say, I have no idea why you would want to move from the Cayman Islands to Galway. You know, it never rains. I don't know if it rains too much in the Cayman Islands, but it never stops raining in Galway.
I promise you, things are far more exciting over here.
I've never been to the Cayman Islands, but it looks beautiful, stunning.
It's beautiful and stunning if you've got the money for it.
Oh, okay. Making a living is probably difficult. Yeah, I suppose I imagine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so do people come to you, and say to you, "Listen, I'm struggling at the moment. I don't know, I've got this wrong with me. I'm talking about psychological situations. I'm going through grief, or maybe I'm depressed, or my sex life is not great. What can you do for me?"
Actually, yes, I used to do classes like that. Well, I wouldn't call them classes, but sessions like that on a weekly basis. I was doing a lot of what's it called? Sorry, shadow work. I almost said tarot. I do tarot as well, but I was doing shadow work sessions where I would speak with people one-on-one about struggles they had, whether they be romantic, financial, or medical even. A lot of time it was psychological. Shadow work does deal a lot with the psyche, so they would reveal very dark aspects of themselves to me, and I would help guide them through that.
Mm. And we had a woman on the other night who won the lottery. She won $120 million. Good for her. But she was a big believer in the law of attraction. Do you believe that? Do you believe we attract things into our lives, or can we? I mean, if we do these storyboards and focus on things, do you believe we can attract things into our lives?
Oh, I'm testament to that. That's what I was alluding to earlier. The law of attraction, which again is just another term for manifestation, and there are many ways to manifest what you want in your life, and that's certainly what brought me here. So yes, I am a firm believer.
Okay, I'm drawing a Ferrari at the moment. I'm hoping I can manifest it in the next few days into my life. That'll be nice. So,
Well, it's a bit more involved than that, but good luck.
yeah, okay, but you gotta have to do storyboards and stuff like that, don't you, in your head, I suppose, and look at pictures of things that you want, or the life that you want, or maybe even the health that you want.
Right, but it's less about wishing for these things and desiring for these things. It's more about living as if you already have them. It's about projecting those things into reality. Again, that's mental transmutation. You have the power to shape your own reality, so execute it.
So you're not a believer in our destiny is already set out and our paths are already. We can change our own destiny at any time.
I think the two are one and the same. Our destinies are predetermined, but we determine what they are.
Mm-hmm. And it mentions here as well that you kind of had a one-on-one conversation with yourself during a full moon, right? And I'm interested in the full moon thing, the Luna. What does the full moon? We hear this kind of thing all the time. Oh, there's a full moon out tonight. Be careful. What does the full moon do to people?
What does it do to people?
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of person you are. What it does for me is vastly different than what it does to werewolves, for example. But
okay, what does it do to you?
What it does for me? The moon has historically always been a symbol of femininity and the mother goddess, regardless of what title or name she went by, and depending on the culture or religion you grew up with. But to me, in a lot of witches as well, the full moon represents and the new moon is where you set your intention, and the full moon is when you receive it. So whenever there is a full moon, I do like to speak one-on-one with my mother goddess, as if we're having a very intimate, private conversation.
Okay.
And I ask her for guidance. I express gratitude. It's similar to going to therapy, having a very a vulnerable conversation with your therapist. And it's always very healing and rewarding for me.
I was going to say that. Do you get something out of that then? You feel better after
Yeah,
that?
always, yeah. It was very transformative last time we spoke. And this wasn't a one-off experience. I do this on a monthly basis. Even though the article may have given that impression that it was an offhand experience.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so
I've been doing this for years now. This is part of my own ritual.
And what sort of reaction when people say, oh, what do you do? And you go, I'm a witch. I'm a witch. What sort of reaction do you get from people, Billy, when you tell them that you're a witch? I mean, are they afraid of you, or do they kind of go, oh, that's interesting?
I think people tend to pick up on the fact that I'm a witch without me even saying anything. I do walk with a certain aesthetic. Let's say that implies that I do practice witchcraft.
Okay.
So I think I scare off a lot of people who would be scared if I mentioned those words anyway. But those who are brave enough to approach me, are usually more receptive to that fact.
Now, I haven't seen a picture of you yet, but do you look witchy? I mean, do you wear like witchy clothes, or do you wear unusual clothes, or do you look unique in some way?
I certainly try my best to look witchy, unless I'm delivering a talk at a conference or something.
Yeah.
I often go about my day-to-day dressed in black or dark colors, lots of boots and fishnets, but that's just my own.
And what is it? What's that about? Why do witches dress in dark? We always see a witch dressed in black. That's kind of normal, isn't it? And normally they normally have the pointy hat, but I'm sure you don't have the pointy hat. But why?
No, I think that's a stereotype that I just happen to find appealing. You'll find witches dressed in all kinds of attire. They don't have to look like that.
I remember Tabitha and Bewitched. Do you remember that program years ago? Yeah, she didn't have all those witchy clothes. But generally speaking, we kind of see witches in black. Is there something meaningful in the color black, by the way, for witches?
Oh, absolutely. I could talk your ear off about colors in general, but especially black. And the fact that black is always, not always, but at least in recent centuries, been associated with the negative, with the dark,
absolutely,
with the evil.
Yeah.
As a person
With
of
death,
color as well,
with death
that
as
doesn't
well.
mean.
Yeah, black is associated with death too, isn't it?
Yeah, and someone who I'm descendant of Indian and African as well as Irish, by the way. So I am a person of color, and I think just me having darker skin, I've lived here long enough. It's only been about 2 years, but I've lived here long enough to know that it does set people off. Me having a darker skin tone.
Okay.
So that does play into it as well. I mean, a lot of the colonists that came over to the Caribbean, and to Africa, would describe the tribes there as being devil worshippers just because of the fact that they were darker skinned.
Yeah. Being black instead of brown, so to speak.
Or being black instead of white.
Oh,
anything but white.
Yeah, I get you. And I mean, what's the kind of weirdest thing you've kind of conjured up, or and by the way, can you put spells on people?
I absolutely can put spells on people.
Jane,
Positive
my producer, be
negative.
careful. She can put a spell on you, Jane.
Well, you've not crossed me yet, so you're okay for now.
Oh, okay, okay.
But no, you have to be very careful with that because, well, I suppose Wiccans are they believe this more strong. How do I say that? Stronger than I do, but it can come back to bite you in your ass if you don't execute those spells properly.
Yeah, I mean, Jane now is typing on my screen, my producer, and she wants to know, can you put a spell on her so she can get her record label? She wants to get a record company to sign her up because she sings. So, in other words, good spells, not the bad ones. So how do you go about putting a spell on somebody? Is that some text or old text that's written somewhere that you kind of rhyme off and then you kind of put the bit in, insert name here? Or is it something that you make up yourself?
Well, that's okay. That's like asking me, how do you cook a meal? It really depends on what you hope to get out of it, and the person involved, and the kind of which you are, or if you work with, again, potions, or if you just do spell work. Everyone has their own methods. For me personally, though, I would want to speak with the person one-on-one, preferably face-to-face. I get to know a little bit about them, do perhaps a bit of shadow work so I know what their struggles are. And then through my work with mental transmutation and probably speaking with Mother Goddess too, I could certainly help them achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve.
So you don't do kind of things like we see in Harry Potter, humana numana, and put a spell on somebody. Like it's not kind of like the movies.
You'll find me doing that around Halloween time.
it sounds fun anyway, even if it didn't work. But I mean,
Sorry.
what about putting bad spells on people? Do witches still put, evil spells on people and curse them for the rest of their lives?
Oh, witches certainly do hex. We still do curse. In fact, I don't know how I don't know how aware people are of this, but there was a massive movement a few years ago when Donald Trump was about to be elected to be, the next U.S. president. There was a massive movement going across the community worldwide of witches to hex him so that he wouldn't become president.
Didn't work.
Regrettably, it didn't work. Yeah, but I think the approach was all wrong, and that's my 2 cents.
Maybe they're doing it again at the moment. Are they hoping next time around? Maybe it'll work this time.
I will say that witches have existed, and I'm again testament to that. Witches have existed in political movements for decades now, possibly centuries.
And are they born again? Because we hear stories of witches, and they tell us, I'm 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
I just keep getting reborn all the time. Do witches get reborn? Is it in your blood?
Well, are we talking coming back from the dead? I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, I mean, I suppose witches would say. I remember many, many years ago speaking to a girl who said she was a witch, and she told me she was, I think, 2,500 years old, because I asked her how old she was. We probably should never ask a woman her age, particularly a witch. And she said, I'm 2,500 years old. And I said, well, how's that? I said, you only look about 40. And she said, because I keep getting reborn, because basically it's hereditary.
Oh, I see. You mean reincarnation? Then.
Yeah, reincarnation. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I absolutely subscribe to that. I think there are different interpretations of it, but in many respects, one could even argue scientifically, as in there's an objective truth to the fact that we are reborn. We are made of the same stuff, the same materials that have existed in the universe since the Big Bang. So in many ways, we are reborn on almost a moment-to-moment basis.
Well,
we're constantly decomposing, and our cells are being produced every second, right? So we're never the same person with every breath we take.
No, we're just made of energy anyway, aren't we?
Exactly.
Well, look, your cafe. Tell us a bit about your cafe. Where is it, and where can people visit it if they want to visit your cafe?
Well, we're currently in the process of setting up in Galway, Ireland. We're right there in the corner of Eyre Square. We're hoping to open our doors in the next few weeks, should all go as planned. We've had a few hiccups along the way, but the cafe is called Cafe Bloodthirsty. So it's not a name
good name.
Forget.
I'm liking the name. Yeah. Hopefully,
we're very much leaning into the whole macabre element.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be open for Halloween at least.
Oh yeah, we're shooting for that.
Yeah. So Cafe Bloodthirsty, and Billie Bryan is the proprietor. She's a witch. It's not all negative if you're thinking, folks. She sounds like a lovely woman. Although she'll put a spell on you if you're nasty to her. By the way, have you ever put a bad spell on anybody, Billie?
Well, I don't kiss and tell.
Oh. Right, okay. Have you put good spells on people?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Okay. Maybe you can keep me in your thoughts when you leave. Put a spell on me that I'm going to win the lottery tomorrow or something. It'd be nice.
That I shall. This has been a pleasant exchange, so I thank you for that.
But listen, Billie, thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate you coming on the air.
I appreciate it as well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Billie Bryan and Cafe Bloodthirsty. It's on the corner of Eyre Square in Galway, if you want to come along and visit it. I have to read out a few messages. I'll read them in a second. Okay. Let me see. Oh, where are they? Oh, yeah. Does that lady have lucky numbers for the lottery? I don't know, actually. I think she's gone anyway. But I wouldn't say she'd give you numbers. She just put a kind of spell on you to win, in general, to have good luck, I suppose. Niall, I'm a leprechaun living in Kerry. Would love to come on and discuss herbs with the witch. Seamus, the little man from the oak tree. Well, Seamus, get on to Jane, because I swear she puts the weirdest people on, the strangest people on every single night. Well, the most unusual people that you can talk to every single night.
Real Talk Radio, the multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.